How are you, everybody who is watching this video? I would like to take this opportunity to welcome some local students that we have in this class, and also let take this opportunity to welcome all the online students who would like to join us in this program. My name is Olenjolain. If it's the first time to meet me, I'm very happy to have you. And I would like to welcome you into this very interesting program of learning about telecommunication engineering. I have some students in departments of electronics and telecommunication engineering at the Dar es Salaam Institute of Technology. And we have 3 sections in our departments. We have electronics section, we have instrumentation section, and also we have telecommunication section. So the modules that you are going to learn today is one of the modules that we have in telecommunication section, or section of telecommunication engineering. So this is the first workshop. We just call it workshop 00. Why do we call it workshop 00? Because in digital electronics, we used to count it from 0. So you have 0 and 0 valuable binary bits in digital electronics. So that's why I call all my first workshops as workshop 00. The module is called Electronics Communication Laboratory. And this is workshop 0, General Introductions of Electronics Communication Laboratory. So I'm going to introduce to you about what we have to cover and what are we going to cover. So one thing which I want to tell you, that whether physical students and online students, you should have an exercise book to write all the materials that I'm going to share and I'm going to teach you. And then so you have to make sure that you make a follow-up. In this module, I'm going to teach you in 3 phases. The first phase, I'm going to teach you the theory of electronics communication laboratory. And the second phase, I'm going to teach you about the simulation of different electronics and communication systems. And then the third phase, I'm going to teach you about the hardware implementation of those systems. So you have to stay connected. We'll try our level best to make sure that we record all the contents and make sure that we share with the students in order to make sure that we maintain your passion of loving telecommunication engineering. So remember, the module is called Electronics Communication Laboratory. So this is actual how we apply electronics in communication. That's the theme, the main theme of the module. I will mention about 5 sub-enabling outcomes or specific objectives. In those specific objectives, you'll see electronics, you'll see also telecommunication engineering. Is it clear? Okay, class. Good. How are you? How are you? Okay, so let us go into the details of this workshop. So the name of the module is called the Electronics Communication Laboratory, and I would like to share with you about contents of this module according to the OT, to the DIT, Dar es Salaam Institute of Technology curriculum. The IT/OT curriculum. The following are sub-enabling outcomes outcomes, sub-enabling outcomes, sub-enabling outcomes as the course outline. Course outline. So we say that in primary and secondary education, we used to have, or we teachers and students, we are always guided by the syllabus, something we call the syllabus. In our country, Tanzania, we have Tanzania Institute of Education, who actually, that's one of their responsibility to make sure that they prepare primary, secondary, and even school teachers' syllabus. In case of ordinary diploma level or college institutions and university level, we don't have syllabus. We just have something we call the curriculum, right? So when you say curriculum, actually the curriculums give a guidance to the teacher, what should you teach, and what are the limitations and what are the boundaries in that particular modules or the course. So we say that very important, or some important information before we go for the sub-enabling outcome, we have to know module code. Module code, because it's very, very important, just like your registration number. So the module code, the code for this module is ETU 07225. ETU 07225. Class A ETU 07225. Do you know the meaning of this module code? Do you know what does it mean? Or what does it represent? You don't know. You just know the module code, that's all. Do you know what does your registration number represent? You didn't bother yourself. Do you know what your national ID NIDA number represents? Do you know the meanings of all of those numbers? You didn't investigate them. One of the thing or the information that you'll find in your NIDA number, it's your birth date, birth month, birth year. Okay? Yeah, so if you go to hospitals now, they say, okay, do you have a NIDA number? Yes. So they don't need to ask you about your birth date, birth month, and birth year. And actually, it is helping most of the people who don't know how to read and keep the age and etc., etc. So, this module code is the meaning, and actually is giving you very important information. The meaning for this module code: E standing for electronics, T standing for telecommunication, and U standing for undergraduate. Can you tell me the next five numbers? Okay, E standing for electronics, T standing for telecommunication, U standing for undergraduate. It means your level is undergraduate. It means or bachelor. Undergraduates are in other words we call it bachelor. Then 07 standing for NTA level 7. NTA level 7. And then this number 2 standing for second semester. So this module is secondary, is being taught as a second semester. Then these 2 standing for review of the curriculum. This is our second revisions of this curriculum. We are using a new curriculum, but it has been revised twice. And number 5 standing for the module codes in the curriculum. Because in curriculums, we have, for instance, I think that you are now, and for your education of 4 years, you have almost more than 20 modules. So each module has its number. So can I repeat? E stands for electronics and the telecommunications. So ET, electronics and what? It means department where you are. U stands for undergraduate. If, for example, you are learning a modules with ordinary diploma, you won't see this U, you'll see T. Means electronics and telecommunication technician. Right? 07, it's NTA level 7. You are NTA level 7, and you have to do NTA level 7 for 3 years. First year, second year, and third year. In your fourth year, you'll go to the next NTA level, which is NTA level 8. Right? So all the modules of the fourth year, you'll see 08, not 07. Are we together? This number 2 represents the semester. If if you go and review all the module scores of semester 1, instead of seeing 2 here, you'll see number 1. Are we together? And then this number 2 represents that how many times that curriculum has been reviewed. The curriculum you are using right now, it has been reviewed twice. Okay? And then number 5, every module has a particular number in the curriculum. Okay? So I think that now you understand the rest of the other module course. Because the good thing that, and I told you that during semester 1, in second semester, in our departments, we have made a decision that most of the modules in semester 1 actually will give you or will teach about electronics, engineering. And most of the modules in semester 2 will teach about what? Telecommunication, engineering. You heard it, but now you realized it. You have what? Electronics communication laboratory. Another module, telecommunication practice. Another module, communication system. Another module, measurements. So measurements is still electronics. But also in telecommunication, we do measurements. Okay, that's important information. And then another important information that you have to know as a student, and especially that college student, number of credits. So the number of credits for this module is 12. So if you score A, you know that your GPA will be good. Can you ask your neighbor, how about your GPA in semester 1? Ask your neighbor. How was your GPA in semester 1? Ask your neighbor, how was your GPA in semester 1? Your neighbor is sad, yeah? Okay. Okay, so then another important part, after giving you those important information, now let us go to sub-enabling outcome. Sub-enabling outcomes of electronics communication laboratory. Sub-enabling outcome in college or institutions or university curriculum look like specific objective that a student has to achieve at the end of a particular topic in case of the syllabus. Say sub-enabling outcomes. In our curriculum, we have sub-enabling outcomes and also we have enabling outcomes. Firstly, we used to, in preparation of the curriculum, first we used to underline enabling outcomes. And then once we have those enabling outcomes, we have sub-enabling outcomes. So you know the meanings of sub, it means that sub is a party of enabling. Are we together? It's just like in O-level, in secondary education, primary education, we had the topic and the sub-topics. So what I'm going to mention to you is actual sub-parts that you have to cover or you have to achieve at the end or at the completions of this module. The first is, so I'm quoting. Remember that these are not my information and these are not actual my words. I'm quoting from the curriculum. And why do I share this information? Because always I don't like to teach blind students. Blind students mean that students who don't know anything about what will be next after something. So I'm sharing this information to you. So even if that maybe I don't come to class, you know what should you cover for that day. Right? However, that in Bongo, we don't like also a teacher who does not come to class because you need to be given a guidance. So the first is sub-enabling outcomes. It's this one. A student has to be able to employ electronics and the electronics knowledge. A student has to be able to use electronics knowledge and the skills. Electronics knowledge and the skills to construct electronics knowledge and skills to construct analogy and the digital. Analogy and the digital circuits. This is the first sub-enabling outcome. Or it's a first specific objective that myself I have to help you to achieve it at the end of this module. Or this the first specific objective you as a student, you have to make sure that you achieve it at the end of this module. So a student has to be able to employ electronics knowledge. So where did you learn this electronics knowledge? In semester 1. Where did you learn this electronics knowledge? During your advanced secondary education. So you have to employ electronics knowledge and these skills. Remember, in the curriculum there's no underlined word. So I'm trying to just to underline the keywords. To construct the analog and the digital circuits. Okay? So this is the huge sub-enabling outcomes, because when you say analog and digital circuits, we have a number of analog circuits and we have a number of digital circuits. So it means that we will need some more details that which analog circuits that are required for us to construct in this module, and which digital circuits that we are required for us to construct in this module. Because otherwise the concept is very general, will be extremely very general, and hence at the end of the course we didn't achieve the specific objective. Are we together? So 1, 2, 3. Remember that I'm using different teaching aids to make sure that my students grasp the concept and keep it and bear it, because at the end of this course you have to analyze yourself. How did you achieve those specific or those sub-enabling outcomes? So 1, 2, 3, let us go and say employ. So actually, you have to laugh and you have to be able to construct the analog and digital circuit. How can you construct the analog and digital circuit? You have to know the theory first. You have to go for simulation. You have to go for hardware implementation. Okay? Number 2, the second sub-enabling outcome. A student has to be able to use electronics tools and equipments. You as a student, you have to be able to use electronics tools and the equipment to measure electrical parameters of analog and the digital circuit. Analog and digital circuit. So remember, in curriculums there's no any underlined word. I'm underlining the words according. So remember, here you've been told to employ. Here you've been told that you have to use electronics tools and the equipment to do what? To measure what? Electrical parameters of what? Analog and digital circuit that you've constructed in the first sub-enabling outcome. So you as a student, you have to be able to use, say use. You know the meaning of employ and use. You should have this information before you use or before you employ. So actually this model demanding you to have some prior information. And that's why when I've been teaching you in semester 1, I told you that keep this information because you'll need them. As long as you keep up or as long as you cover the concept. Are we together? The sub-enabling outcomes does not say that a teacher has to teach you in electronics, maybe a teacher who is teaching you electronics and communication laboratory has to teach you electronics knowledge and skills to construct the analog and digital circuits. No. So a teacher comes with an assumption that a student has electronics knowledge and skills on constructing analog and digital circuits. So actually the teacher has to make sure that the students or accompany the students to employ, to use the previous knowledge of and skills to construct the analog and digital circuits. Are we together? Are we together? try to understand some words that have been used. Eliakimu, come here, please. So, but the second is subliminal outcomes. I, as the teacher, I have to make sure that I will coach you to use electronic tools and the equipments to measure electrical parameters found in those analog circuits and digital circuits. So remember, the modules does not demand me to teach you about electronic tools and equipments. I have to find you that you know to use them. And I have to tell you that I ask you to measure the following electrical parameters in this particular analog circuit, in this particular digital circuits. Are we together? So ask your neighbor, do you have something to use there? In your mind, do you have something to use there? Some of your neighbors are not happy. Why? Ask your neighbor, why are you unhappy? Okay, so this is the third. So you see that there's a relationship between the first sub-enabling outcome and the second sub-enabling outcome. In the first sub-enabling outcome, you have to learn to construct analog and digital circuits. However, the sentence is still general. Why still general? When you say analog circuit, it's a broad field. In biomedical, we have analog circuit. In computer engineering, we have analog circuit. In electronics, we have analog circuit. In communication, we have analog circuit. And then in mechatronics, we have analog circuit. So it is still broad. Okay? Okay? So it means that in any field of electronics, we have a broad. When you come for the digital circuit, we have it's a broad field. You may even cover, you may try to learn until you die. You didn't cover, you didn't finish to cover the content. So the sentence is still general. So we'll get in detail because the curriculum has already given us the direction. Okay? So there's a dependence. So it means the second sub-enabling outcome depends the first sub-enabling outcome. If you cannot construct the analog and digital circuits, then you have no electrical parameter that you will need to measure by using electronic tools and equipment. Simple like that. So if you fail to meet the first sub-enabling outcome, you will fail to meet the second sub-enabling outcome. But remember that you have been told to use. So use, it means something that you have it, right? For example, you say, okay, let me use my chalk to write. I have it already, right? I cannot say, okay, let me use the chalk and then I don't have. Can I use? Okay, so class 1, 2, 3, let us read together to put in to write in our subconscious mind. 1, 2, 3, use electronics.
Use electronics tools and equipment to measure electrical parameters.
So your signal strength at the beginning was high. Then as long as you read, signal strength goes down. So you attenuate. So operate. So a student has to be able to operate electronics tools, electronics tools, and the equipment. Electronics tools and equipment to measure electronics circuit parameters for justifying system performance. It's the responsibility of every teacher to give you the sub-enabling outcomes so that to know what should you cover in that particular module. So this is the third sub-enabling outcome. So the third sub-enabling outcome, a student has to be able to operate electronics tools and electronics equipment to measure electronic circuit parameters for justifying what? System performance. So what relationship between the third sub-enabling outcome? Is there a relationship between the third sub-enabling outcome and the second one? Is there? No. There's just a relationship between the third and the fifth one. It means in the second sub-enabling outcomes, you have to be able to use those tools and equipments to measure. But in the third, you have to be able to operate the tools and equipments to measure electronic circuit parameters for justifying the circuit or system performance. Which system performance? Analog and digital circuits performance. When you say performance, it means that either the circuit might perform the desired task or the circuit might not be working. So having a circuit which is not working in electronics and telecommunication engineering, it's not something bad. It's a good. The thing is, you have to give out the reasons why it's not working. Are we together? Are we together? So you have to be able to operate electronic tools and equipment. And the good thing that in this semester you have a module that's called the electronics measurements. So the second specific objective, sub-enabling outcomes, and the third actual, that the knowledge you have to get there and come and use it here. So you have to get or to grasp the concept of using electronic tools and equipments and then apply that knowledge in measuring electrical parameters that we'll be constructing in analog and digital circuits. Are we together? Class, are we together? Yes. So what the difference between operate and use? Ask your neighbor. What the difference between operate, use, employ? Because here, employ. This is the verb. This is the verb. This is verb. So what the difference? Why they didn't say that? Employ, employ, employ. Or operate, operate, operate. Or use, 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 use. Okay. English might be your first language. So, to know the difference between those verbs, it's another story. What you actually concentrate that I know, what does it mean? That's all. You can use the way you use here. Eh? Okay, that is according to Samandito. Okay, the first, okay, 1, 2, 3, let us read the same sub-enabling. 1, 2, 3, let us read loudly. 1, 2, 3, operate what? So what the means of justifying system? Ask your neighbor. What the means of justifying system performance? What does it mean? What do you understand? Justifying. First of all, start with the word called justification. You hear the word that I just want to be justified or to justify. So just begin with the word justification. What does it mean about justification? And remember the word justification is the same family with justice. And you have been learning science and mathematics. This word justifications you have applied in mathematics, but you forgot. Can I remind you? Can I remind you where did you apply in mathematics the word justification? For instance, you have been asked that, show that cosine of 2 theta is equal to 1 minus 2 cosine square of theta. So, it means that left-hand side, the equation of left-hand side might be equal to the equation of right-hand side, or it might not be equal. So, when the equation of left-hand side is equal to the equation of right-hand side, then you say that, hence so. So, you have justified that is correct expression or correct equation. So, when you say that justification of the system performance, it means that in electronics and telecommunication engineering, we are using these electronic tools and equipments to conclude whether that analog circuit that we have constructed or digital circuit works or it does not work. I told you that You as electronics engineer, you should not think, hey, there's a particular meeting somewhere there. Please, disarray that meeting. So I told you that you as electronics and telecommunication engineer, you should not judge the performance of any system, even a small system that, maybe for example, that you have a battery, you have a current limiting resistor, you have LED, then you have a switch. So once you turn on the switch, then the LED is turning on. You should not say that, okay, my circuit is working because the LED, I expected the LED to be on, so because the LED is on, then the circuit is working. No. You have to judge the performance of the system that you have designed in terms of numbers and in terms of what? Electrical parameters. Are we together? So this study specific sub-enabling outcomes is actual coaching you or teaching you how can you verify or justify the performance of the analog circuit that you've constructed or of the digital circuit that you've constructed logically and actual that in terms in the simple and accurate language in terms of telecommunication engineering. Are we together? I used to tell you, but finally you saw that even the curriculums ask you to learn how to use electronics tools and equipments on justifying the performance of the particular system. So if you say the LED is turning on, yes, you have to say, okay, I have a battery of 9 volt, and then one I turned on because I used the resistor of 220 ohm in order to limit current. So then the current flowing through the circuit is a particular figure. So that's how. And you cannot say that the current flowing through the circuit is actual, that maybe it is 20 milliampere without doing measurement. And then the voltage maybe across the LED or the voltage across the resistor, you cannot say that it is 2.5 or maybe 3.5 without measurement. Okay? And then so if you say, okay, this is DC signal, wow, wonderful. If you have oscilloscope, show us if it is DC signal. Possibly the battery, maybe we don't see that the nature of the signal or the waveform that battery is giving out. Are we together? Yes, that is, it's not a good news for the lazy students and actual for the students who don't like to work hard. The fourth sub-enabling outcome. The fourth sub-enabling outcome, a student has to be able to employ knowledge and the skills. Students has to be able to employ knowledge and skills of electronics and the telecommunication to maintain electronics communication system. So the fourth sub-enabling outcome, it is this one. As students, you have to be able to employ knowledge and skills of electronics and the telecommunication to maintain electronic system. So to maintain is actual maintenance. So listen, what does it mean? In electronics, we have two types of maintenance. We have preventive maintenance, and also we have the other second type of maintenance, which I forgot its name. So when you say that, you as a student, you have already gathered the knowledge and skills of electronics in semester 1, and telecommunication that we are writing in your mind in this semester 2. You have to use them to maintain electronic system. So when you say to maintain electronic system, you may maintain industrial manufacturing electronic system or devices. You have to know that how can you maintain and how can you troubleshoot to identify the problem, and then how can you fix it, right? But again, when you are constructing analog circuits and digital circuit, you should not have assumption that after you've constructed your analog circuit and digital circuit, then it's going to work. It might not even do anything that you have expected it to do. Are we together? So it means that you need to do what? You have to troubleshoot or to check what the problems in your circuit, why it's not working as expected. So that process of troubleshooting and finding the problem and the cause and how to fix it out, that's what we call it in case of electronics appliances. We say that we are doing maintenance and repair. Are we together? Are we together? So you should not think that maybe these skills or these skills we can acquire it when you have maybe a television receiver, or maybe if you have, let's say, a radio receiver. No. Even if that this analog and digital circuit that you're going to design, oftenly they might not work as you expected. So you have to make sure that you do the troubleshooting and check if there's the wrong connection, and check if there is maybe improper connection, and check if there are some challenges, or there's a actual wastage of current when it's been flowing from one point to another point. So all of those will be actual the maintaining or the maintenance of your electronics communication system. Are we together? Class, are we together? 1, 2, 3, let us pronounce that. Again, 1, 2, 3. Speak loudly. You are more than 30 students. 1, 2, 3. Let us go. Okay, so the field sub-enabling outcome, it's this one. A student has to be able to employ knowledge and skill. Knowledge and skills. Knowledge and skills of electronics. Of electronics and telecommunication. Knowledge and skill and telecommunication to connect electronics communication, electronics communication system parts. So this is the first sub-enabling outcome. A student, stop writing, a student has to be able to employ knowledge and skills of electronics and telecommunication to connect electronics communication system parts. You should be able to employ knowledge and skills of electronics and telecommunication to connect electronics communication system what? Say electronics communication system parts. The two main parts are electronics communication system parts, are transmitter, media, the three main parts: transmitter, media, and receiver. So at the end of this module, you as a student, you have to be able, to use knowledge and the skills that you have taught in electronics and telecommunication to make sure at least that you can connect a transmitter to the media, and you can connect the media with receiver. So these are the three parts. three main parts of any communication system or electronics communication system. Whether it's guided communication system or unguided communication system. Whether it is wired communication system or it's wireless communication system. So you have to make sure that you have skills and you have to employ knowledge and skills of telecommunication and electronics to connect those different parts in order to work as you have expected them to work. So you might, if you analyze these are the only 5 sub-enabling outcomes that you have to achieve in this module. When you analyze them, you might think that, oh, it's very simple to achieve them. But I don't want to tell that it's simple or it's not simple. Let us see the business. Okay? But again, if you read them clearly and you sit down and think for a moment, you might find that you may design or you may construct a particular analog circuit and digital circuit, and when you are constructing that analog circuit or digital communication circuit, you may meet all other sub-enabling outcomes by using the same system. What does it mean? For instance, if I want to design analog communication transmitter and receiver, right? So analog communication transmitter and what? Or let's say analog communication system. I want just to design analog communication system because we do have. For instance, the landline communication is just analog, right? That we've been using TTCL, that's the analog. So for instance, if I say, okay, I will construct the analog communication circuit. So once I've constructed it, then I'll be constructing as the different parts. In order to make sure that I study about the performance, I have to make sure that I connected those electronic system parts together. I have to connect them logically in order to speak the same language. Okay? Then, when I've done that, in case that I've connected them and I find that I don't see, the transmitter is transmitting the information and the media is not receiving, or the receiver is not receiving the information which has been sent by the transmitter, then I have to come to this specific objective or to this sub-enabling outcome number 4 to maintain the system. Right? Right? Once I've maintained it, then okay, fine. So I have already done the maintenance. Remember that I've constructed the analog communication system. I have done it, I have connected the different parts to work together. I have maintained in case that it's not working because we always expect to maintain. I want to tell you that when you have a system which are consisting at least 10 electronics components, whether integrated circuits and discrete components, expect it that at the beginning the circuit is not going to work. Why? Sometimes we can say that it's according to systematic error or random error, but sometimes it's according to the actual that we say that carelessness of the observer or experimenter. Or sometimes it's according to the limitations of the knowledge that you have. So once we maintain, then we can use the electronic tools and equipment to measure electrical parameters. Right? Right? And then so when we measure these electrical parameters, we may also use or operate those electronic tools and equipments to measure those electronic circuit parameters. Because remember, electrical parameters and electronic circuit parameters, they are like. They are the same. Simply, we don't have electronic parameters. We just have electrical. Just have what? Electrical parameters. But in case that you encounter electronic circuit parameters, that should not confuse you. Then you can use those tools to justify the performance of your system. Also, you may say that, you may construct a digital communication circuit. You have your digital transmitter, you have your digital receiver. And then you may use a media, whether it's guided or a media that you are going to use, it's unguided. Right? Once you have constructed it, you have transmitter, there's a media, there's a receiver. Then you have to connect those 3 main parts to work together and to work logically. Possibly, they don't work. Right? If they don't work, you come to the 4th sub-enabling outcome to do the maintenance. Right? Then you maintain, you say, okay, let me go and check it if it's working again. You ask the transmitter to send the information, then you check the receiver if he used to listen. Because the transmitter is actual broadcasting. And then the receiver is actual listening, what has been sent by what? By the transmitter. Okay, so if you have already connected, you have already done the maintenance, you can do the measurements of 40 of electrical parameters. But remember that if you have limited knowledge, you have nothing to do. You have nothing to do because you don't know what you are going to measure and why are you measuring that parameter. So that's why the theory is very important. The simulation is very important. Right? Because theory and simulation minimize hard work in hardware implementation. Remember that. Theories and simulation minimize hard work, hassling in hardware implementation. Are we together? Is it clear? Class, is it clear? So 1, 2, 3, let us go. Employee knowledge and skills. Okay. If you have any question about those 5 sub-enabling outcomes, ask. Which sub-enabling outcomes is not clear? Remember, I told you that this is still a general sentences. Analog circuits, we have thousands of analog circuits. Digital circuits, we have millions digital circuits. So the sentence is still general. So we have to go into the something we call the workbenches, which I'll teach you in the next workshop number 1. We'll go in detail and extracting in the first sub-enabling outcomes, what should we achieve? What should we learn? For example, this first sub-enabling outcome, it has been broken and having 4 specific objectives that you have to achieve, 4 parts that you have to cover in order to achieve that first sub-enabling outcome. Are we together? Remember the students, you say, these 5 sub-enabling outcomes, they are few. We'll cover them soon and then celebrate and graduate that you have finished the OT, Electronics Communication Laboratory. In case you have any question, please ask it. I'm waiting your question. No question, eh? It's clear? Eh? Yes, next time you'll tell me that, sir, we don't know where are you going. We don't know what are you teaching us and we don't know where are we going. Next time, when things become tough. You have a question? You're welcome. Outcome number 5. Number 4. Should I repeat to explain? Okay, these are the attendance. Can I have your pen, please? After presenting to you about the 5 sub-enabling outcomes of Electronics Communication Laboratory, then I would like you to present to you a very important information about prerequisite module. Say prerequisite module. Say prerequisite module. Actually, here we mention one module, but according to the 5 sub-enabling outcomes, you should have prerequisite of a number of modules that have been teaching you different knowledge about electronics and telecommunication OT system. So according to the Dar es Salaam Institute curriculum, prerequisite module of OT of Electronics Communication Laboratory is called the ATT 05211 telecommunication what? Telecommunication practice. This is the prerequisite of this module. I'm quoting. So remember that stop writing. E standing for electronics, T standing for OT, telecommunication, T standing for OT, technician, 05 standing for OT, NTA level 5, 2 standing for OT, semester 2, 1 standing for OT, review of the curriculum, And 140, the number of code of this module. So this is NTA level 5 or second year ordinary diploma module. And you are come from advanced secondary level. So if you missed the contents of ATT 0521, you have to go and review them. Review them. Look for it, then grasp that concept. You will enjoy electronics communication laboratory. So this is a prerequisite module. Then another piece of information, this is let's say number 2, sub-applications of number 1. The number 3, another important, is learning context. Class A learning context, say prerequisite module. Again. So learning context. So learning context. Then according to the Dar es Salaam Institute of Technology curriculum, this module, which module? Electronics Communication Laboratory, will be taught. I will teach you. Will be taught through lectures, like the one that I'm giving you now, through demonstration, like the video demonstration, through practicals, through assignments, through homework, through tutorials, through presentation, through presentations. So this is learning context of electronics communication laboratory. This module has to be taught through lectures. Say lectures. Demonstration. Say demonstration. Practicals. Assignments. Homeworks. Tutorials. Presentations. So if I assign you any of those, then you should not complain. Number 4, learning materials. How can we learn? What are the materials that we need in order to learn the materials of electronics communication laboratory? Learning materials. The first learning material that we need black or white board. Why I'm presenting to you this information? In order to know that what am I doing, it's not wrong. I've been asked to do. Black or white OT, most students, they don't like to learn by using blackboard. So this is the blackboard. That's why I'm using blackboard. Right? Okay. The second learning material is multimedia projector. So we'll use this one, multimedia projector. We'll be using in simulation. We'll be using projector, multimedia projector. We'll be using in simulation. We'll be using in practicals. Then the third learning material, we call it demonstration kit. Demonstration kits. Demonstration kits. Then the fourth learning material that we need for this module, we need computers, to use computers to design those electronic communication system. Also, we need relevant software package. Software package. So relevant software packages. Then, those are the these are learning contexts, and that is learning materials that we need for covering or learning the concepts in electronics and communication laboratory. Another important part is references. What are the reference books that you need in order to learn about electronics communication laboratory? That's a very important part, right? Because we are not innovating actually. So there are some people who did experiments, did investigation, did research, and then they come up with the analysis or presentation of the concept. So what are the reference books recommended for you to learn this module? So this will be number 5. References. So in references, we have 2 categories. The first category, we have required. These categories we call it required. These are the required books. And the second categories, we are going to have a second category is called recommended books. Say required books. So you have to make sure that today, once we end this lecture or this workshop, you have to go and look. You have to go and find them or find one of them. So required books or required references. So this is required references. And then we have required what? Recommended references. So the way that we are rating references, this is the formal way. When you'll be in your 4th year, NTA level 8, you'll be doing project. And in your project book of semester 1, semester 2, you have to include a last page that's called the references. And we have a standard way of writing references. So this one, it's a standard way because we have the name of the author, the name of the book, the date, the year of publication, the publisher. So you have so many informations, but you have to arrange. But also the arrangement in order. So so bear this information and make sure that you will apply during your 1st year. So this is the first reference. Then in this style, this is the name of the writer or author. Mutala. So the author of this book is called the Mutala Zedi. The year of publication is 2016. Ask your neighbor, where were you 2016? Ask your neighbor, where were you in 2016 when this book has been published? Handbook of Laboratory. Handbook of Laboratory Experiments. Handbook of Laboratory Experiments in Electronics. In Electronics and Communication Engineering. In Electronics and Communication Engineering. So you begin, so this is standard way, you have to begin with the name of the author. Hello, hello there. So you begin with the name of the author, say author. Then you come to the year of publication, in bracket, in parentheses. Then the name of the book. So the name of the book is called the Handbook of Laboratory Experiments in Electronics and Communication Engineering. 1, 2, 3, let us go. 1, 2, 3, let us go. 1, 2, 3, let us go. So what the means of handbook? You can carry it. Okay. So ask your neighbor, when are you going to start? Will you carry this book next lecture? Because it's handbook, it's not a computer book. So then this is volume 2. We had the volume 1. This is volume 2. The required was volume 2. Then the publisher is called the Notion Press. Then comma. Ink number 800, then comma, location of publisher, West El Camino. West El Camino, real. Number 180, comma, California, comma, 94040, comma, USA, comma, 2016 dot. Then we have something called it ICBN. This is a unique number. ICBN 13 978 dash 0 1 3 0 8 4 7 8 1. So remember that this is, oh sorry. I 978 9466. I know for beginner students you might see that this is boring, all of this information the name of the book is actually interesting, but all of this information are boring. But I want to tell you that without this information that I'm giving you, you will never find this book online. And you will never find the free one, because I know you cannot buy it. So you like to have the name of the book, just to go and write the handbook of laboratory experiments in electronics and communication in Google. You will see the books that have been sold in Amazon. And I know that you don't have a budget to buy what? By default, I know it. So this information is actually give you unique, because sometimes when you are preparing this curriculum, we are trying to find or to recommend or to provide the required references which are free, because we know our students that we know that our students are what? Dash, right? Yes. So 19499. No, 9466. Sorry. 6641 dash 15. Yeah. So this is the first required reference. The name of the author, remember that during your final year project, you must have at least 20 references. For instance, in semester 1, the minimum required references in your project, in your final year project, at least 15. For the second semester, you will add some other references, at least 30. I'll be writing them in this style, because this is the acceptable format. Okay? You remember me during that time. Because if you submit your book to your supervisor, you have printed, you have spent maybe 10,000 to print it, and then your supervisor check the references, you have written them poor, he or she will cross it and actually ask you to go and correct it and reprint it again. So from there, you will come back to what I taught you. Because always we learn from mistake. And we Tanzanians, we like to see. Then the second required reference, class A, Handbook of Electronics and Communication Engineering. Handbook of Laboratory Experiments in Electronics and Communication Engineering. So make sure that you go and find this book online. Okay? Hey, I don't ask you that go and find it in our library. It's not there. So the second required references, It's a book written by Bernard Sklar. Bernard Sklar. And it has been published in 2014. Ask your neighbor again, where were you in 2014? Standard 1. Ask your neighbor, were you in standard 1? Standard 5, eh? Okay, digital communication. Digital communication. Fundamental. And ask your neighbor, how can you compare your class performance in 2014 and 2024? Yeah? Ask your neighbor, how can you compare your class performance in 2014 and 2024? Do you still have the same performance or something happened? Something happened there? Okay. So if you have this required reference book, you may learn a lot of concept yourself. So even if that, I will not guide, I'll just tell you that go and learn about encoder. Then you got the reference book and learn about encoder. So this is the secondary required reference. It's called what? Digital communications, fundamental and the applications. It's called what? Digital communications, fundamental and what? Fundamental and what? Applications. Okay, class 1, 2, 3. Let us say digital communication, fundamental and applications. Then I want you to stop writing, physical students and online students, stop writing. If you wanted to search these books in Google platform, make sure that you write all the information that I've written there in order for you to get the free book. Right? But you may go and test. Just go and write the name of the book. Then you'll see how much dollar should you pay in order to get it. And I know actual, you will turn off the browser and then say that see you next time. Because they will ask you that to fill the information about your credit or debit card. And then from there, I know you'll be very hungry. These are stealing my money. Do you have the money to be stolen? Okay, so those are the two required reference books to learn about electronics communication laboratory. Then now let us go to part B, recommended. So these are recommended, those are required. So ask your neighbor, what is the difference between recommended and required? Because the electronics English, English is important. Recommended references. Ask your neighbor what the difference between required references and recommended references. Huh? Prentice Hall. So, did your neighbor tell you the difference? So which one are important? Required references or recommended references? Required. No. Okay, so say recommended references. Say recommended references. Okay. So you have to make sure that you go and look these two books. Student, listen. I ask you to go and find these two books. and start to read them. What should you read? How to construct analog circuit and digital. Okay. The first recommended reference has been written by Joseph, not Joseph Jacob and not Joseph Pasco. Joseph. It has been published in 2001. Ask your neighbor, where are you in 2001? Ask your neighbor, where are you in 2001? Ask it seriously. Your neighbor was somewhere. You were very far. 2001, were you far? And you are in comfortable environment. Not like now. There's the troubles. When troubles come, you raise me up. Okay, understanding. So the book is called the Understanding Telephone Electronics. Understanding Telephone Electronics. And this is the fourth edition. Fourth edition, Newins. ICBN 0-7506-71750. So class A, understanding telephone electronics. What the difference between telephone and mobile phone? Then the first reference, which is a second recommended book, it has been written by Prax J. G. and Saleh M. 2002. This is called the communication system engineering. This might be a very favorite module for telecom students, those who like telecom engineering. But also remember that no telecom if you don't like electronics. That's why the module is not called the communication laboratory. It is called the electronics communication laboratory. Printers Hall. ICBN 13 978 01 30 61 73 34. So the first reference, but is the second recommended reference, is called the Communication System Engineering. Say Communication System Engineering. Again, say Communication System Engineering. So this is a good book also to learn another module that you are learning right now that's called Communication System. It's called Communication System, right? Do you enjoy it? The first recommended reference has been written by this person, Ask your neighbor, when are you going to write a book that we can refer? Or can be referred to learn electronics and communication engineering? Ask your neighbor. Eh? Ask your neighbor, when are we going to refer your work? When? 2034? So remember that this is the name of the author. So how many authors are here? Eh? The first one? Eh? Eh? The second? Eh? Eh? So it's a collaboration, right? And for you, how many friends do you have in this class? Only one or two. So you can collaborate and write a book. And your children will refer your book. I know that internally you are saying, that, sir, it's not impossible. Even to refer the one which we mentioned there, it's a problem for me. So, right, mine? Needs some extent of power. Understanding telephone electronics. Understanding telephone electronics. Understanding telephone electronics. Battier, Worth, Heinemann, ICBN. Remember, for the books, ICBN is just like your registration number. You have a unique registration number at DIT. So ICBN is the unique. And this, whenever you hear that somebody has patent, mean that nobody who is allowed to copy the information from your book, or even to use it without your permission, or to edit without your permission. That's the meaning. ICBN number 10 013 06 17 938. Eliakimu, you are doing Eliakim. So class say, understanding telephone electronics. Again, understanding telephone electronics. So you have understanding telephone electronics, and you have understanding telephone electronics. Understand telephone electronics, understand telephone electronics. Yes, but the name of the book is the same, but different authors. Understanding telephone electronics, 4th edition. These are Joseph C. It's not Joseph Pasco or Joseph Jacob. These are the author. To be written 2001 when you are somewhere else. Very interesting. And you have been alone there. Okay. Then this one is what? Understanding telephone electronics. These are the two authors, 3 authors. The first one is called what? The second one? And the third one? Do you have these names in Bongoland? Okay, so the next part, reference was number what? Reference was number 5, number 4? Number 5, eh? So number 6, and it's the last thing for this workshop. Integrated method. Integrated methods of assessment. How will I assess you? Or how am I supposed to assess you in this module? Class A, integrated methods of assessment. So simply, we say that the only two parts of integrated of assessment. The first one, we call it continuous assessment. The continuous assessment for this module is 60%, which in short we call it CA. Then the second assessment is final examination. Final examination. The final examination for this exam carry 40 marks or 40%. Carry 40%. So how am I going to assess you, the method of assessment for continuous assessment? In this module, I will give you quiz or quizzes. Say quizzes. Say quizzes. And there is no makeup for the quiz. If you miss it, you have missed it. That's all. Right? And according to the laws of quiz, actually there's no any date. It means the teacher might not mention the date of the quiz. The quiz may be provided either at the beginning of the class or in the middle of it or at the end in any class. And the quiz mostly, it takes short time and it's individual work. Right? So make sure that you get prepared every time. That is my simple advice. Get prepared every. It might even start now. Tell your neighbor. We might start quiz 1 now. Tell your neighbor. We might start quiz 1. Tell your neighbor. Then, I will also give you a number of assignments. I will also give you a number of homeworks. Then I will also give you 1 or 2 tests. And also, I will also assess you in simulation works. And also, I will assess you in terms of practical work. So if you remember that these are the 60 ways. The weight of each method that I'm going to use is different. But for the time being, just know that we'll have quizzes, we'll have assignments, we'll have homeworks, we'll have tests, we'll have simulation works, we'll have practicals. So whenever we have a number of assessment methods, then the probability for you to fail continuous assessment is 0. Why? Because if you miss quizzes, you'll make sure that you do well in assignments. Right? If you fail assignments, you have to make sure that you do well in practicals. If you miss some marks in simulations, you have to do well in what? Maybe in simulation. If you miss some marks or some marks in terms in part of 40 homeworks, then you can compensate them in practicals. It's better if, rather than if I tell you that, I will just give you 2 tests. It means 2 tests. If you fail the first test and second test, you are gone. You don't have any other chance. And if you analyze this method of 40, method of assessment, I have been guided by the curriculum. Are we together? So because I know that at this time we can just we might not when I'll be giving this week, sometimes you might not be happy. So because now you are happy, because no any work that have been given, let us pronounce them in order to write in our brain. Say quizzes. Say quizzes. Say assignments. Say assignments. Your voice is going down, down, down. Then say homeworks. Homeworks. And then say testes. For the testes you enjoy because you are expert in that. Writing, you are good in that. And if I provide 2 tests, one might be written, the other ones might be practical. That's the meanings of electronics communication lab. When I say practical, it might be simulation or it might be real practical. Right? So get prepared. I'm not telling you those information in order to scare you. No. I'm just preparing your mindset to be in the positions of working hard. For me, I want to tell you that I've prepared 60 marks to each student. Even the whole class, you may score 60%. It's just a matter of you to work hard. And also, I have prepared it to reward all the students in this class 40% of electronics and communication laboratory. Are we together? But remember that whether I gave you a quiz, I gave you assignment, I gave you homeworks, I gave you tests, I gave you simulation, I gave you practicals. Remember, the primary goal is to assess your level of understanding. Your primary goals should not be to seek for the marks. Okay? Are we together? So whenever I give you a task, remember that my intentions or the intention of the course is actually to test you, to assess your level 40 understanding about that particular topic or that particular subtopic. So the intention is not to give you marks. The intention is to test you or to assess your understanding. But once you have understood, then we give you a gift. And that gift, we call it your marks. Are we together? So remember, marks, it's a gift for me. Okay? Okay? If you have any question about what I've presented and taught you and explained, you may ask. Raise up your hand if you have any question about what I've presented. Did you understand? Yes. Okay, so let us congratulate ourselves. You missed it to be congratulated. I know you have been in vacation for the 7 week. Nobody who has congratulated you. Isn't? Yes. 1, 2, 3. Ongera. Imara. Wow. Oh, so if you have understood, get prepared to understand also lecture or workshop 2. Workshop 1, workshop 2. We are going to have a number of workshops, a number of lectures, a number of labs. Right? Yes. So get prepared and make sure that you refer the previous contents because we need them to understand and grasp the concept. So for the online community, this is the end of our workshop 00, General Introductions of Electronics Communication Laboratory. We believe that you have got something in your mind. And we believe that you are going to join us as long as we keep on with this module. And we believe that also yourself, you'll be giving us some challenges and sharing some contents that you know about electronics communication laboratory. So simply, we are here in order to share what we know. And even yourself, you have a chance to share what you know. Because the community and even the electronics and telecommunication engineers, they really wait about your contributions and about your knowledge. So in case you feel that it's okay and then you want to register yourself, just don't forget to click the button that written subscribe and then you'll get notification. But one thing which I want to tell you that for all the students who have registered and even those who did not register themselves, we are very serious in this online community and the online education institution that's called the Online Bachelor Polytechnics of Tanzania. Every week we are going to publish at least one video that will be teaching you whether mathematics, that will be teaching you about whether engineering mathematics or scientific mathematics, that will be teaching you whether electronics engineering, that will be teaching you whether mechatronics engineering, that will be teaching you whether telecommunication engineering. So make sure that you join us and we'd like to invite you in the next workshop. Thank you very much. May God bless you and keep you until we meet in the next class.
Mungu ibariki Tanzania, dumisha uhuru na umoja wake kwa waume na watoto. Mungu ibariki Tanzania.